Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Almost 20 years ago, in December 1992, I was part of a Canadian delegation that was sponsored by the Presbyterian Church in Taiwan and the Taiwanese Canadian community that came to observe that very first free and complete legislative election in Taiwan. It was an exciting time for Taiwan and for all those who cared about Taiwan. Up until 1992, Taiwan had been known more for its incredible economic growth, sometimes referred to in those years as the Taiwan miracle. The miracle was noted and praised, often with little regard for some of the factors that had helped to produce it. I remember writing at the time that the real miracle of Taiwan was the strength of its people, and particularly those from within and from without, who never gave up dreaming and working for the day when there would be free and fair elections in their homeland. I predicted that the other miracle would fade somewhat as a result of the globalization of the world economy and competition from new forces in the global marketplace, but that the real miracle would stand. The real miracle was what I was privileged to be able to observe in 1992. Men and women who had in the past experienced intimidation, blacklisting, imprisonment, and violence, joyously relishing their democratic opportunity to openly encourage their assembled supporters and to openly advocate competing visions of Taiwan's future. Thus began in 1992 my initiation into one of the most unknown and untold stories of our time, the story of Taiwan. 20 years later, I'm pleased to be part of a Canadian delegation, another Canadian delegation, to observe that the real miracle of Taiwan, the peaceful transition to democracy and the subsequent putting down of democratic roots in the political and social dimension of Taiwan's life, is alive and well, no matter what controversies may attend any particular election. So on behalf of the Canadian delegation that I am part of, I salute the democratic spirit of the Taiwanese people. No democracy is perfect, including Canada's. But together with Taiwan, with old democracies and new democracies working together and learning from each other, we can make the world more accountable to the needs and to the will of the people. In this particular time and place, may the presence of us Canadians, along with my colleagues here from all over the world, signal to all involved in the election the value that the world puts on Taiwanese democracy. We are neutral about the outcome of the election, but we are not neutral about the importance of that outcome being accomplished in a free and fair way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Berkey. There are 7 other members from observers from Canada. Let me introduce one. First is Professor Susan Heathers. Mr. David Kilgore. Mr. Peter Noble. Mr. Ruben Noble. Mr. Ted Simon. Mr. Michael Stanton. Miss Lloyd Wilson.
感谢再度回热烈的鼓声，谢谢。大家巴肚有影无？有哦。最后，咱摇声指挥员特别开动哦。那么，请大家议员保持咱的国际礼仪，因为咱正有咧收音，咱来检测咱讲话时收音出来咱干扰，所以请大家多多包涵。最后，咱来请欧洲创制及公投协会执行长 曼考夫先生致辞。
Let's invite the Honorable Bruno Kaufman to give a few words.
Yes, that's right size for me. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Taiwanese citizens and friends, colleagues from across Asia and the world, this is democracy in action. For the 5th time you will, the day after tomorrow, be able to freely elect your head of state and your representatives in the national parliament. Such an election, when millions and millions are using their rights, reflecting on their thoughts and making their decisions, is no small matter. It's a historic achievement and a foundation to build upon. Democracy means people power. There can be no democracy with free elections, but free elections alone are not the same as democracy, people power. What we need to understand as we approach election day is that the modern democracy requires a full set of critical elements. This is one basic lesson I would like to share with you here today, not at least from a European perspective. In Europe, many countries and nations introduced 100 years ago universal suffrage, the right for female and male alike to participate in popular votes. But this, as we all know, was not enough to secure peace and welfare within and between the European countries. We had first to experience the inhuman atrocities of 2 hot world wars and a Cold War in order to learn one more very fundamental lesson. It is not enough to have free elections in one country. You also need to ensure fundamental human rights, to support comprehensive forms of citizen participation in between elections and on the transnational level. Such a modern representative democracy is based on 3 pillars: protection through human rights, delegation through free elections, and participation through citizens' initiatives and referendums. These are the 3 pillars of the European democracy that has emerged in recent decades. This development of democracy also includes new forms of people power at the transnational level in a polity called the European Union. Since 1979, we have been able to elect our common European Parliament in direct elections. People across Europe also had the opportunity to vote on European issues in more than 50 nationwide referendums. And now, beginning on April 1 of this year, in exactly 80 days from today, the citizens of Europe will receive the same right as the majority of the European Parliament and the Member States, namely the right to propose new European legislation. Through the new European Citizen Initiative, we, the citizens, by collecting signatures to proposals from 1 million people from at least 7 countries, will be able to set the transnational agenda. All this sounds great, but it's also challenging. The world is developing very fast, and the economic interests have developed faster than everything else. As a result, we are seeing the privatization of democracies by big money and special interest. Or in other words, 1% of the world population seems to have more political power and more economic muscle than the rest of us, the 99% together. In the Arab world, in Moscow, on Wall Street, the people are protesting against this dangerous development. And this is right. But it's not enough to protest, to accuse, to refuse. We need also to act, to propose and to innovate. We need a lot of work, clear demands and the courage to further democratize our democracies. One such clear demand is the demand for not only legally free, but also practically fair elections, which you, dear friends, in this impressive gathering here in this hall, and with you, millions of Taiwanese have the right and the duty to demand, now and in the future. In my home country, Sweden, and across Europe, we try to advance our democracy by, for example, introducing the European Citizen Initiative, the world's first transnational direct democratic tool with digital circulation of signatures. But also by trying to establish comprehensive participatory infrastructure at all political levels. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Taiwanese compatriots of the world, this country is clearly at the forefront when it comes to democratizing democracy. Your national constitution embodies individual protection for everybody. For a couple of decades you have experienced free delegation by direct elections, and you have even started to implement and practice direct democracy through initiatives and referendums. This country is good, it's very good, but not good enough. As no country in the world is good enough. We are all just starting. I wish you from my heart a very successful, free and fair democratic election this Saturday. May the winner not be a candidate or a party, but you, the people. Thank you very much.
感谢来自欧洲的考夫曼先生，谢谢。
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. And I'll introduce the other four members from Europe. First is Madame Christine de Saint-Genois. And the Honorable Axel Fischer. Mr. Michael Danielson. Professor Stefan Korkov.
补充报告：亚太地区有24位委员，日本有17位委员，有17位。那么，今仔到明仔拢总的3位来到这补充报告，谢谢。
There are 24 members from the Asia Pacific Committee, and 17 out of them are in Japan. Two more members from Japan will visit Taiwan tomorrow.
感谢。那么时间已经真晚，我要请所有咱的贵宾拍开恁的饮料，把饮料倒一个。我知，倒一个是安怎呢？当恁倒个时间，咱利用这时间，等下互相干杯所以请咱即马先把饮料小倒一个。 刷来去请咱所有的贵宾，是不是爱请你来挥手？因为咱的卡面想讲要甲你翕张这个完美的照片。
Yeah. Actually, we'll invite all of you to stand up because the photographers, media would like to take a group photos of all of you.
请大家挥挥手。
And please raise your hands to the audience. And all the audience would like to say thank you to delegations.
我们感谢从世界各地咱所有的贵宾来到这，咱接线是不是请贵宾会使转去咱的贵宾桌？谢谢。
So after this, we can, and we'll start the dinner shortly. Thank you.
等一下，那请陪到是留步。好，请各位贵宾就继续就座，谢谢。
Dear members of the delegations, please have your seat and we'll begin the dinner shortly.
各位朋友、各位贵宾，今日全世界咱的台湾人真侪来到台湾，为着后日的选举，全工全程来，我们感觉非常感动，感觉到台湾安尼前途有希望。而且向各位感谢，来依祝。 后日嘅选举会顺利成功，同时祝新年快乐，大家健康，一切顺利。多谢各位。
各位贵宾，请大家杯仔提高完，可能后日选举选得对的人中奖完，好不好？新年快乐，谢谢。
Let's raise our glass and celebrate the successful election in Taiwan in 2 days. Cheers!